I'm Jay Horton. I make movies that make money, and this is Filmmakers On. Today, I am talking to filmmaker Matt Festel. I've worked with Matt as a sound mixer on a couple of shows, and over the last couple of years, he started producing his own features. So I kind of wanted to bring him on and start talking about that. Let's bring him in. Hey, Matt.
Hey, how you doing, Jason?
Good, man. So you started out as a sound guy. Like you're a sound mixer. You do post. You do scores. You do sound design, and you're still doing that. But what made you want to make the jump into like producing and directing, or was that always the track?
Uh, I don't think it was always the track, but I love movies so much. Like, there's just nothing. Art wise, it's just this insane collaborative process, and so I think I've just always been fascinated by all the different departments that come together. Honestly, so
Mm,
it was like, why not try and dip my feet at one point?
right, right. Is making your own stuff? Is it what you thought it would be?
It sort of is, just because the first time we ever tried something, it was like we were in college and we had no money, and it was just like, this is like a backyard movie kind of thing. And so that was really like sobering, because it was like, you can't just release a movie on YouTube and like millions of views are going to come. Like, it doesn't work like that. And so it
Hmm.
was a fun experience, because we learned a lot through failure and all that. But it was cool, because then you could really see like how reality is after you actually make something.
Right,
So
right. Is it ever like difficult or challenging, like when you go back then, like say you go back, you're on my movie and you're like a sound mixer and you're watching, people do stuff and you like know something might not be happening quite right. You're like, is that difficult for you or do you just view it as a learning experience?
no, I think yeah, it's all learning experiences, because like
Mm,
I there's so many times too, you look back on your own work and you're just like, man, I wish I did this different. I wish I did that. Like, oh, I know this now, so I wouldn't have done that. And that's always like kind of the thing that gets me the most. Is like, we're our own worst critics usually. So that, but no, on set it's cool to see how things run, you know, filmmaker to filmmaker. I always think it's like cool, because you could see some things like I was a PA once, and I saw they had storyboards on set, and
mm.
every single shot of it that they wanted to do, and I was like, that's really cool. Everyone can just look to that and see it. And of course, I never followed through and have done that yet, but I'm like, that's a cool thing I want to try, just to have that visual.
Yeah, totally. And I think when you get into like slightly larger budgets, it's more like feasible. I talked to Sophia, the DP on Craving, about doing storyboards, and she was like, I love storyboards, but like we haven't even seen the actual physical location yet. So it's like we could sit here and do storyboards, but until we get there and know what it is, and on indie films, like how often do you really get to spend any real time on a location before you get there? So she was
Very.
kind of like in her experience on small films, like it's almost like counterproductive. It's like have your shot list ready to go. But I totally like if like in Craving, for example, we did build a set, but we had
Yeah.
I think I think we had 5 days like building the set, and we really even until the last day weren't 100% sure what it was going to look like. you know?
Yeah, that's cool though. It turned out great too. I mean,
Yeah,
like,
no,
it has a great
yeah,
personality to it.
totally. Yeah, I was happy with it. So, do you? I'm just gonna pop around different areas.
Absolutely.
So do you think that today, with like the ease of distribution and how much easier it is to make movies and cheaper, and so there's a bunch more out there in the marketplace, um, do you think that that democratization of filmmaking? I mean, is it good or is it hurting the industry?
It's tough, right? I was thinking about that, and I watch your videos, obviously, so like I know that that question has kind of been posed in different
Yeah,
ways, and I always wonder, because it's like, yeah, the accessibility to technology of like, I know it's beaten like a dead horse, but like Tangerine was a great example of like an iPhone movie,
yeah.
and it's like, you can make a movie on your phone, and that's incredible. Like, nowadays, like the fact that you can go shoot 4K on a cell phone is like, what like. But at the same time, like you said, there's kind of an oversaturation of films happening now, which is, again, just I think part of the natural thing of like, hey, if I could just go grab five of my friends and we can go to the woods and shoot something in a couple days and there's a movie. it's cool, but I think there's also cons to that of like, well, how much time are we really spending on the film? Is it going to be the best of our work that it can be? Would it have helped just to get a couple extra grand to sink into the budget, or you know what I mean? Like, so I think there's kind of ups and downs to that, because I love the fact that it's inspiring. Like,
Hmm.
I can go on Tubi, which I use Tubi more than like the paid services I have, you know, and I
Yeah.
can find something every time I go on there that I'm interested in, that's independent, that is even well made. You know what I mean? And some aren't as well made, but
Right.
that's kind of what's interesting about Tubi is they have like, there's QC, right? But at the same time, there's sometimes you'll watch something and you're like, oh, there's clipping in this. Like, there's some clipping
Yeah,
audio here. Like, you know.
yeah. Or
So
audio cutouts. I
yeah,
heard all
yeah,
kinds of stuff. You know,
yeah.
which brings me to another interesting question, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Like, you know, because there really is no objective measurement of quality, you know,
Right,
or of you know good or bad, you know.
right.
So like when I get comments on my channel all the time saying that, you know, like I'll do a promotion for some movie and they'll be like, why are you pushing that, like, you know, awful movie? And I'm like, well, you know, who are you or I to say it's awful? You know what I
Yes,
mean? And a
exactly.
lot of these like small, you know, we'll call them backyard movies, you know, like with say bad sound or, you know, like bad picture, maybe bad acting, but there is still an audience for those. Like there are people that dig them. I
Yeah,
mean, you
I'm part
know,
of it. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I've worked on them. I've worked with filmmakers that make films that people would consider, some people, you know, film snobby people would say this is awful, objectively, you know, bad quality thing. And for a time I kind of agreed with them. And then I started like actually seeing these people interact with fans and stuff and people that actually dug them. And at
Hmm.
first you're like, oh, they must be just being nice. But after a while you start realizing there really is an audience for everything.
Absolutely. And I think that it sort of goes like hand in hand with, it's that eye of the beholder kind of thing of like,
Hmm.
well, yeah, what's one man's junk is another man's treasure. You know, that same idea of like, I agree with you completely. And it does help too to make, I think, or be a part of that process, because then you can really see like some of the passion that goes into really, really low budget stuff that,
Yeah,
um, as long as they have that driving story, like it's okay that there's flubs and warts and whatever, you know?
totally. I mean, some of the most successful documentaries that I've done have been some of the technically worst. Like, you know, for whatever reason, it just didn't turn out
Right, right.
great. But, you know, it was providing information or talking about something that people weren't getting anywhere else, and they
Yeah.
will take that, you know, and like it, you know. But yeah, I that's that it's anyway, it's just something that's been on my mind because I've been getting a lot
Yeah.
of comments about that lately.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I agree with you though.
yeah.
Definitely. It's really not so black and white, you know.
Yeah, totally. So, how have you went about distributing? So first of all, how many features have you put out at this point as a
Oh,
producer?
okay. So we did during COVID we made a like a really small movie called Hacked, and it was like
Right.
kind of a screen life, little bit of narrative, very low budget. We put that out through Film Hub just to kind of like, let's try this, you know. And
Hmm.
it went pretty well, you know, not crazy numbers or nothing, but for not marketing at all, we were kind of surprised. We were like, okay, there's actually money to be made if you really get into the business part of this.
Right.
And then we did Shadow Marsh, which was crowdfunded, and then that went through Film Hub, onto, you know, Amazon, Tubi, Plex, Apple TV, all that kind of stuff. And that one we haven't done like a ton of marketing for. We just kind of done little things here and there, and it's done really well for us, like surprisingly. But now this year we kind of want to really go into that. And then just our most recent one was Composure, which is
Mhm.
sort of like a follow up to Hacked, and it's like it is a sequel to Hacked, but it's not like the webcam stuff. It's all narrative.
Right.
Um, and so yeah, we have three on there, and then I ended up putting one of my old like double feature projects like from college on there, just to just put it up on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's technically like three or four up there. Yeah.
Okay. And has that experience been pretty good for you so far?
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Film Hub, I think they're great. I think it's incredible what they're able to pull off. And I don't like overusing the word incredible, but like in
Yeah.
this day and age with how the distribution climate kind of is, I do think that it warrants that word pretty much, because I can't think of another place where you can, I mean, Indie Rights obviously is right there with them, those two. But like in terms of that, it's really cool how accessible, they are to some of these like good streamers right now.
Totally. And I think like some of the flack that comes with it, with Film Hub or people talking about it, it has to deal with, people use the term independent film, but like independent film is such a broad term and there's so many different levels of independent films, and like the stuff we're talking about here, we're making movies for $5,000 or 10 or 20 or maybe $30,000. And the same rules of thumb and what might be good placement for that movie is not the same as a good placement for a movie that costs, say, $250,000.
Yes.
Exactly. But yeah. So I think Film Hub's really great for stuff like that. I've put out just about every single documentary I've ever made through Film Hub. I done all of my older library after it rights reverted, and all of that's up there. So like I love it.
Yeah, no, and I could see what you're saying about like if you have a bigger budget, you're probably looking for bigger deals out the gate. But but still, I mean, for these real small micro budget titles, I think it's probably one of the best options we have.
Yeah. So let's talk about crowdfunding for a minute. So you've done 2 campaigns now, right? Or
well,
3?
Technically 3, yeah.
Okay.
Because we did a finishing for Shadowmarsh, and then
okay.
So we did 2 for Shadowmarsh, and we've done Isling Pines to get production. Yeah. So we've done 3, and Indiegogo's tough. That's a hard.
It is.
It's a hard endeavor, and anybody that's willing to go that route, I commend you, and I wish you the best on it, because it's just it's a very like it's so like awesome because you can network and connect with so many other people, fans, people that are into film, and obviously filmmakers, because the amount of filmmakers I've met through Indiegogo, and you just throw them some money, hope the best on your movie, like all that.
Yeah,
it's cool to like find people like yourself that are doing the same stuff that we're all doing, of like trying to get these like grassroots DIY movies off the ground. And I love Indiegogo for like all that reason. I don't like business, I don't like money, I don't like finances, so all of that stuff of like trying to sell perks and doing that, it's like that's where I'm like, this is so hard. And I don't like that. I don't like asking for help is one thing, so having to ask people for money is like, it's hard to do that. So you have to kind of get through this barrier of that to even, see this light at the end of the tunnel of this big product that we can all get together. And it's hard, I don't know that I would like want to keep doing that for every film. You know what I mean? Like,
no, I once explained it, and I'm not down on it overall or nothing, but it's basically when you go out to raise money for a movie, traditionally, like you go out there and you pitch like crazy for this person for whatever, $50,000 or $100,000, or it's just a few people. Where with like crowdfunding, you're doing that exact same pitch, but you're doing it for like $20 to some kid in Albuquerque to buy a DVD. And I don't bemoan it, because like I said, I did it for Craving. We had a pretty good one for that, and like we built up such an interest in the movie that will translate into like sales, and and people that are into it and want to see it succeed and will help.
Definitely.
So I like it for that, but yeah, it is. I think it's a lot more work than people actually realize. And a lot of people play lip service. They'll be like, oh yeah, I know, it's like, it's real hard, it's a lot of work, but they don't really realize how much work it is until you have like 2 screens up on your monitor, one with your Indiegogo, one with Facebook, one with Twitter, and you're responding, and you're just trying to do basic responses. Like, like a first day of our campaign, we had 150 people donate. So it was like every minute because I'm trying to respond to everybody that donates. So, I'm sending that person an email, then I'm trying to see if I can find them on social media, then I'm like, and then I'm responding to questions on social media, like, well, if I get this perk, can I do that, or like stuff like that, which you want to
absolutely
do,
that interest.
Because any kind of marketing these days, I think it's all about interaction with your audience.
And finding that audience through, I think crowdfunding is really cool, because you're finding, again, people that directly want to watch these films, and that's what I think is kind of amazing about, this whole film community and independent world in general, is like, everybody's out there, you know, and it's cool to kind of see how the power of the internet it really does connect everybody, you know.
Totally. And speaking of perks, we were talking about, you know, how perks can be a pain. What were some like problematic like perks for you, or perks like if you were to do another crowdfunder, like I wouldn't do this kind of perk again.
So it wasn't like crazy, you know. We
Yeah.
tried to think ahead where we were like, okay, like, is shipping the town sign like too much, or is that
Mm.
like, you know, again, it's not that big of a thing, but it's more of like just making sure I can package it right, and like, you know, are we gonna get signed by everybody? Like chasing down people for the signatures was always fun.
Mm.
We didn't plan that out well, and then we planned it out pretty good, but not the best it could have been. But yeah, it was like, yeah, sending certain like one of a kind items kind of worried me too, of just like, I really hope this doesn't get like lost somehow in the mail. Like
Yeah.
we had a book, you know, and the sign, those are one of a kind. So it was sort of just like, oh, I really, you know, paying for the first class, all that good stuff, but like I hope it, you know, doesn't have any problems, you know, getting there. And they didn't, thankfully.
Right. Did you do DVDs and Blu-rays?
We did, and that was a lot. That was a lot
Yeah.
more than we would have thought we were gonna do.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
thought maybe like 100 or so of like both together, and it was a lot more than that. And
Yeah.
I remember having to package all the DVDs, all the Blu-rays, and that was a lot of time. But
Yeah.
it was really cool though too, like in an amazing way, because it felt like, wow, you're seeing every single person that supported this idea and that wants a hard copy of it, and you're sending it to them by hand. Like that was a cool thing where I was like, wow, that's like another like, oh, I don't know this, I know that person. Like, you know, it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
It was like it was a cool little moment where you're like, oh, this is a fun part about filmmaking at the same time. Like,
Dude, that's the, you know, that's one of the things I really like about you, man. You're such a glass half full guy. Like I love that, and I got to remember that when I'm sitting here, like because I'm in the middle of putting together the DVDs and blues for Craving, and I'm like,
yep.
you know, like I really, and it's my own fault. I really underestimated shipping costs. I underestimated replication costs a little bit because it'd been a while since I'd done it. So like I'm not terribly behind on it, but it's like enough that it's like and there's so many. I mean, I didn't expect us. I didn't, you know, because like I was looking. I think we both did. You were looking at like the Mahals and like campaigns like that where they weren't even doing physical media, and I was like,
right,
because I considered not doing it. My crowdfunding consultant, I think we had the same guy. He was like adamant about physical media, so I did it. Although I'm getting ready to do one in April, and I'm on the fence about the DVD Blu-rays because, like I said, we did sell a lot of them, but in the overall, like if you're looking at your numbers, you know, and say we raised $70,000, of that $70,000, about $5 was from, you know, physical media, and is that like, you know,
the cost of that cost of shipping, the getting the bubble mailers, all that. Yeah,
I hate to look at it like that because especially in horror, there's such a demand for physical media, and you feel like you have to service the fans and the people that like it. But you know, you also got to look at it from, you know, but I don't know if I can find somebody else to fulfill it next time. Maybe I'll do it.
Yeah, let me know. Yeah, I'll mail them all for you.
All right. Yeah. I'll have you do that, man. That'd be great.
Hey, yeah. No, I totally agree though. It's a hard, you know, one by one process, especially when you're doing one movie at a time. And then, like you said, the cost. I mean, and I think they just raised, if I'm not mistaken, the media mail cost just went up 16 cents, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So. It's always you know, that little bit.
And that's a good point because a lot of people don't actually know about media mail. So like, guys, you can get a lower rate when you're shipping like, you know, DVDs, Blu-rays, anything. If you say you work in the entertainment industry and it's like a media discount, I think. And yeah, it's a lot. I didn't know about it at first. I didn't ship any of the Blu-rays or DVDs yet, but we were shipping out some other perks and I had no freaking clue.
Yeah.
And,
it took us. Yeah, exactly. It took us till Shadowmarch to like learn about it, and I was like, "Oh, that's right. You can get a little bit of a lower rate, and it takes like a week to get there sometimes if it's far away. But like, it's not worth it. I would say."
Totally. Hold on 1 second. I am gonna open. I'm gonna do. I've been talking a lot. All right. So since Shadow Marsh is your most recent one to be out, correct?
Yeah, that, and then Composure, actually, we did that one in secrecy and dropped it after a little bit. But,
What was it? What's it like doing something in secret like that? I've never. Was it?
I think it was fun. It was cool because you're like, you can kind of be like, not like, it's sort of goofy. You're like, oh yeah, I'm making something, but I'm just not going to say what, and you maybe post a photo here and there. But we were just trying to see if, it's sort of like an experiment. Like, what if we can write, shoot, edit, make a trailer, and then drop everything plus the artwork in the same day? And it's like, this is it. It's here. And no one knew about it before, would be like the goal. I'm sure it got out to a couple friends and stuff, but yeah, it was fun. It was a really fun experience, but we learned a lot about how to not like do that ever again. Dropping a movie just out of the blue, in the indie world, it's not gonna just blow up, of course. So we didn't expect it to, but at the same time, we were like, would it be a cool thing to garner press or anything like that? And it really didn't, unless you still, of course, we're going after the different horror sites and stuff. But
with Shadow Marsh, did you seek out that kind of marketing, like with the horror press and stuff like that?
Yeah, we did. We went to a couple different sites at first just to sort of announce that it was coming out independently on DVD and Blu-ray. And then when it got to streaming, we tried it on a couple more. We didn't hear back from all of them either, which I know sometimes they're busy. They got a lot of other stuff coming in. So, but we wanted to, again, like I was telling you, we wanted to kind of this year try more with marketing, just because, like, again, none of us have that background. I don't, we don't have the business end of it. So this is all a big, kind of a new thing for us that we can experiment with and try. And I watch your videos. So like, I really like, it recently you talked about doing the phone aspect ratio of the edits and the 60 seconds, 30 seconds, 50. Yeah. So I started doing that with all of our movies, because I was like, dude, I can put a little bit into here and then put that onto Instagram. And but that, like, so now it's like that kind of stuff is what I need to be thinking about, is a little more of that end. And then hopefully just get better at filmmaking.
Yeah, totally. Do you feel like there's been like a progression amongst the movies? Like, as you produced them?
Yeah. Like a little bit, like we still have a long way to go, I would say. But I think like with Hacked, it was so small scale that there was a lot of error, like a lot of room for error and stuff in that kind of movie. And then when we got to do Shadow Marsh, there was, a little bit more of a budget thanks to crowdfunding. And I think that was a big step up. We hired a great DP. We hired a really great cast. It was like a good little mix. And then Composure, it was a little bit of a smaller budget than Shadow Marsh that we kind of put together. And then that, even though for us, like on our level, I feel like of these tiny movies, I felt like it was close to Shadow Marsh. It might not be better around that exact quality, but it was a good stepping stone, at least from Hacked, I would say.
Right. So. And do you have? So I know you. So you've shot Eastland Pines, right? That's all the way in the can.
Yeah. So we got a couple more little things in the opening credits that I'm shooting, like inserts that I'm going to shoot for the opening credits. But other than that, it's like, it's there. So that's editing. Yeah, we're editing that right now. And
that's great. Are you guys just handling post yourself, or?
Yeah, I think we're gonna again. We'll probably have Matt edit it again, but I might take a little bit of a crack at it, and then sound and then music. We got actually some cool ideas to bring in a lot of different musicians for this to kind of create a little more of an untraditional kind of score in certain ways, and soundtrack kind of in general. So that'd be like really fun. I'm kind of looking forward to that part of it, of like when we get into the music part, because there's some really cool musicians I've been like just talking to, and I think if we can get money together, it would be cool to kind of bring other minds in to the mix.
Totally. It's different for me, because I'm not a musician, so like I don't do any of the music for my stuff, so it's always collaborating with a composer. I think I would be I've done some movies where like I'll edit the music, like I'll do stock and I'll edit together. I'm a pretty good music editor, but
yeah, I know you were good. You used to edit music, I thought, right?
Yeah. So like I'm decent at it. And now, I mean, Jesus, in Premiere, they have all the remix tools and crap like that. Like the AI stuff. What's your take on the AI stuff now?
Oh man, it's crazy. I think it's really cool. Like it's similar. It's cool to like it's cool because again, now you can save steps in some ways, which saves money, which saves well, it kills jobs, but it's not like the same as like straight up killing jobs, because I think you've even said it before, you still prefer to do mixes with sound guys, and at the end, like even if you've got
Yeah.
to do some work, massage it a bit. But
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I agree though, like, and I had a professor, and he was really great in college. His name was Corey Koken, and he would tell us there was a specific equalizer that was coming out on the market when we were like seniors, and he was like, this thing is gonna kill all of our dialogue mixing jobs. And I was like, what? And then he starts showing us these videos on it, and it was literally a wave writer. So you would have your EQ and you would set it to a human, male setting, and now as you're listening to it, and it's essentially just automating itself, like while you're just watching the track happen. So you do the dialogue edit, and then you throw that on, and then you're like, oh, it's just gonna go. And I was like, wow, that is next level.
Yeah. I mean, doing, I did all of the dialogue edit on Craving, and then Mark Composer's doing a mix for it. But I mean, I've never been able to take a dialogue edit that far. Like usually I can do most of it, but then I have to go to somebody for a polish or, to clean up noise or something like that. But,
Definitely.
and I do feel sorry for people that did that. But truth of the matter is, though, when you're talking about movies at the level that we weren't going to hire those people anyway. We were going to do it ourselves, or a friend was going to do us a favor.
Very true. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. That's the hard part too about it, because like I even look back on like a lot of the Full Moon movies I like from the 90s, and it's like, you look at those credits and you're like, they had a whole post sound team on this. Like they had a dialogue editor, a mixer, a Foley artist and editor. And it was like, they had a full staff. And now you look now at what they're able to hire. It's just the reality of indies. Exactly. It's one guy, maybe one guy mixing, like you said, one guy composed, like, and it's all just like, there's your post team. It's 3 people now. It used to be 14 or 20,
Yeah. And we can put out for, much less money on a relative budget, stuff that's, technically, superior to what some of those like, theatrical level, low budget things were doing in the 90s or 2000s.
That's true. Yeah. That's very true.
And I was just listening to some sound from one of my first movies, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like in an hour, I could take that sound mix now, and it'd be night and day different. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Like just how 10 years just give us that.
I know, and it is scary because it's I think it's going to get more and more complex. Like the AI animations and AI video, and I mean it's going to get to the point where we're not even going to make low budget movies anymore. Kids will be making them on their lunch. They'll be like they'll type a couple of cues in there, and they'll get a 60-minute thing. And you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, there'll be AI director, right? AI.
Yeah. But I don't know. I just started messing around with a few of the things. Just like I'll use the Chat GPT sometimes to do like text prompts and stuff like that. Like if I'm having trouble coming up with a post, or if I'm doing a video or a documentary on something, and I want to know like a general thing about this topic, I'll be like, give me a paragraph on, UFOs, material in Roswell, and I'll get like, and then, I won't use it word for word, but it's a great jumping off point.
It's like a template. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know people that are using the image thing now, for like their background images and posters and stuff. And, a lot of people can just tell the AI stuff right away, but there's some people that they take it and then they manipulate it in Photoshop later. And like, some of that's really incredible.
It is. It absolutely is. With some of that AI artwork too, I've noticed, people using it as like concept art for some of their ideas. And
totally. Yeah. That's one of the things we're doing now. I'm talking about doing a crowdfunder for a new movie in like April, and we're starting to do some conceptual stuff for it.
Nice. That's cool, man.
Yeah. So let's talk about Shadow Marsh for a second. Like how close did that come to your original vision of it?
So that was okay. So I co-wrote that one, and I produced it. Obviously Matt Leal directed that.
Yeah.
But, it was close. It was similar. Matt from the get-go would always kind of describe it as more of the new meets old, like, because originally it was going to be like a sort of for hire sequel of sorts to or like prequel. No, it was a prequel of sorts to an established movie, Moon of the Blood Beast. And it turned into obviously something different because Matt kind of had ideas for a story to be more like not the traditional slasher, more of like a mystery about a monster in a town and a cult. So eventually it turned into Shadowmarsh, and it was like more about, I mean, the script was the same. It was the same, except now characters are a little different. There's a new monster. The cult has this different like origin for the monster, but it was still a baseline of like, this was like going to be a prequel monster movie. And then it, you know, I thought I was pretty happy about it in general, just like the experience of working on it for Matt. And it was a crazy crash course for all of us in the sense of producing and like, you know, learning the hard way in a lot of ways, you know, of okay, there's money on the line. Yeah. We got to make the day. Weather might not be on your favor sometimes, you know, there's all those little things of just like, we were shooting in the winter, probably wasn't the smartest idea. But yeah, it was a great experience though. And to finish it, to get to work with some cool talent. Like I know you got to work with Felissa on Craving and probably, I think before that too, but yeah, it was really cool to kind of experience just more of that professional, like drama approach, like because I don't work on a ton of those like mysteries and dramas, and in the last couple of years now I've gotten to do a couple, and it's like, oh, this is kind of a cool little, it's not straight up horror, but it's got those elements and it's a little different, so it was a good time.
And I know it's still early and, you know, hard to tell with it just starting post, but like how did you feel about Island Pines? How do you feel about the process? Yeah,
I'm happy. Yeah, it's crazy. It's bloody. It's got a lot of like kind of crazy like things that are, I don't want to say out of left field in it, but we sort of took the approach of like, let's just write this story as like a group of friends that get together every year for Halloween, and something different happens this year, and it's all just like takes place in a couple hours. It's just really fast paced, like, and cool. It's sort of like becomes like an alien home invasion kind of movie, and then you're bouncing between the neighbor's house and their house, and Glenn Plummer's the neighbor, and then there's the party down the street kind of thing. So you're bouncing between these three, and then they all sort of come to a head at the end of the movie. And
it sounds really cool.
Thanks, man. It was, we just spent, you know, Alexis and I writing it for a few years, and it's changed a lot over time. You know, it was way more ambitious before. It's still very ambitious, but we had to scale. How can we make this thing not for like 80,000? How can we make it for 50? Okay, now how can we make it for 30? You know, right. That was sort of the way it went. But it was like, again, nothing was really sacrificed, which I think is cool. Like it was very, like we got to shoot what we wanted to shoot, so.
Awesome. What kind of time frame you think we're looking at for completion on that?
We're really hoping that we can get it done for Halloween this year. Okay. That gives us, you know, almost a full year in post. We're fairly quick with how we can at least be down the hall from our sound and video. Right. So in that sense, I'm confident we can do it. I'm hoping that we can at least have like a good rough cut this summer, so we could start shopping that around to see, like, get some real feedback on it and stuff, and then we can really fine tune it for the fall. That's my goal. So,
did you have something planned next, or?
Oh, we got a lot of like cool ideas. No, I got ideas, but yeah, it's just hard. Like we got like, because that's kind of the fun part of like Three Keys is we got three different minds here, and then we're trying to bring in other people that have cool ideas, and we can help write it with them or make it, or, you know, whatever we can do, provide them with gear. And so we're writing a comedy right now. I've been working on it for a few months with a friend named Cody, and he's in the Midwest, and we've been writing it over the internet, and it's a little over halfway done through the script right now. And we've been taking our time. Like it's, you know, we've been taking probably 6+ months, and we're halfway through the script. So we've been kind of editing and revising as we go even. So it's been coming along really well. And it's a strange comedy. It's more of a, you know, comedy drama. It's not like a hard R or anything. It's more of like, it would probably be accessible to most audiences, I would say. And but I'll keep you posted on it for sure, because it should be a fun little project. So.
Awesome. And if people want to keep up with you or Three Keys, you guys like a website, social media?
Yeah. We're on, we're on Facebook. We got like a private Three Keys media group. So we'll post like random new things happening in there, and then we'll post it on the public page later, which is also on Facebook. And then we got an Instagram, Three Keys Media. And then Matt Festal, I'm just on random social medias, Twitter, Facebook, all that, Instagram. So